Once again at Genesis chapter 21, verse 14. And Abraham rose up early in the morning and took bread and a bottle of water and gave it unto Hagar, putting it on her shoulder and the child, and sent her away. And she departed and wandered in the wilderness of Beersheba. Notice, this moment marks a distinct advance in the spiritual experience of Abraham. From this moment onwards, all is strength and victory. He cast out the bondwoman and her son. He no longer fears the prince of this world, who would be Abimelech, but reproves him. And now that the heir is come, Christ is type, he knows himself to be the possessor of heavenly as well as earthly promises. Verse 15. And the water was spent in the bottle, and she cast the child under one of the shrubs. Notes, she told Ishmael to sit down with a shrub, providing a little shade. Now, child in the Hebrew can actually refer to a young man, and we know that this actually applies to Ishmael. You know, whenever we think of a child, we think of maybe a 3 or a 4 or a 5-year-old, maybe even a 8 or a 9-year-old. But this could be, you could be 18 to 20 years old and still be considered a child as far as the Hebrew language is concerned. Verse 16. And she went and set her down over against him a good way off, as it were a bow shot. For she said, Let me not see the death of the child. And she sat over against him and lifted up her voice and wept. Notes, without water, both of them would die very, very soon. Verse 17. And God heard the voice of the lad, and the angel of God called to Hagar out of heaven and said unto her, What ails you, Hagar? Fear not, for God has heard the voice of the lad where he is. Notes, it is not said that either Ishmael or his mother prayed to God in their distress. Hence the divine interposition on their behalf was due solely to mercy and to God's love for Abraham. Verse 18. Arise, lift up the lad, and hold him in your hand, for I will make him a great nation. Notes, Ishmael being between 18 and 20 years old at this time, the phrase actually means place your hand on his shoulder and steady him. True to God's promise, the Arabs definitely sprang from Ishmael. Verse 19. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave the lad drink. Notes, evidently the Lord had purposely blinded her to the well until certain things could be made known to her, and that she would acknowledge them, which required a smidgen of faith, if you will. You know, God's always casting the line for that, so to speak. Verse 20. And God was with the lad. Notes, which means that the Lord, despite Ishmael's murderous attitude toward Isaac, did all for the sake of Abraham. Scripture, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. Notes, now you see we have here the beginning of the Arab people right there. It went from Abraham, from Hagar, into this child named Ishmael, and now Ishmael has married an Egyptian. So there you have two Egyptians in that little mixture right there, and, well, of course, they're Arabs. Verse 22. And it came to pass at that time that Abimelech and Phicol, the chief captain of his host, spoke unto Abraham, saying, God is with you in all that you do. Notice, it is evident that Abimelech was a smart man. He had sense enough to know that if God was with Abraham, he would be with all who befriended Abraham. And most people right now who are actually in the church and even out of the church should take a lesson from this man. Verse 23. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that you will not deal falsely with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, but according to the kindness that I have done unto you, you shall do unto me, and to the land wherein you have sojourned. Notes, Abimelech wants the covenant to extend even to his grandson. Scripture, and Abraham said, I will swear. Notes, Abimelech recognized that Abraham had power with God, and he wanted to be on the positive side of that power and not the negative. Very, very smart choice, I must admit. Verse 25, and Abraham reproved Abimelech because of a well of water which Abimelech's servants had violently taken away. Notes, the ownership of wells in that part of the world was a jealously guarded possession, and someone might end up getting whacked over the head if they tried to steal it. It's a lot like that situation over there in, certain parts of Africa where the well water is just extremely vitally important, and, well, people die for that kind of stuff off over there all the time. Verse 26, and Abimelech said, I do not know who has done this thing, neither did you tell me, neither yet heard I of it, but today. Notes, this shows that Abimelech was not dealing falsely with Abraham. He did not know of the situation. Verse 27, and Abraham took sheep and oxen and gave them unto Abimelech, and both of them made a covenant. Notes, now evidently these animals were actually sacrificed. Verse 28, and Abraham set 7 ewe lambs of the flock by themselves. Notes, this was a symbol of a covenant with which Abimelech was really probably not familiar with, even though he may have had an inkling or two. Verse 29, and Abimelech said unto Abraham, what do these 7 ewe lambs mean which you have set by themselves? Notes, 7 ewe lambs are picked out and placed by themselves, and by accepting these, Abimelech bound himself to acknowledge and respect Abraham's title to the well. Apparently this manner of ratifying an oath was unknown to the Philistines. Abimelech, maybe, like I said, may have had some clue as to what was going on, but didn't have the general idea. And he, verse 30, and he who was Abraham said, for these 7 ewe lambs shall you take of my hand, that they may be a witness unto me that I have dug this well. Notes, if Abimelech takes the 7 lambs, which he obviously did, this shows that he agrees with Abraham's contention concerning the fact that the well had originally belonged to him and had been fraudulently taken. Verse 31, wherefore he called that place Beersheba, because there they did swear both of them. Notes, the word in Hebrew for swearing is a passive verb, literally signifying to be sevened, that is, done or confirmed by 7. Verse 32, thus they made a covenant at Beersheba. Then Abimelech rose up, and Phicol, the chief captain of the host, and they returned unto the land of the Philistines. I should have said his host, but anyways, notes, this area ruled by Abimelech is called here the land of the Philistines for the first time. However, the main body of the Philistines who established their cities in the south coastal plain of Canaan did not arrive until a little bit later. And we will pick up in Genesis chapter 21, verse 33. Thank you, and God bless.